Hey, I'm back again with Don Barton, who's the owner and CEO of The Perfect Plan and a classically trained economist, but who is really a frustrated anthropologist. I think that's a whole episode on its own someday. But he's back again as a follow-up to the last episode where we talked about his experience with being a bored ADHD entrepreneur. With him being diagnosed and understanding his ADHD, he was able to flip it by understanding how he can satisfy his boredom. What can he do to do that? And that the boredom is an energy ready to go. Now, his experience was completely different to mine. So I lost my first engineering company because of my undiagnosed ADHD. And realistically, the reason was why I got bored with my company. And when I mentioned that to Don, he's like, "Oh, that's interesting." And he wanted to talk more about it and ask me a bunch of questions about it. So, me not knowing that I was bored, I actually started creating fires because the startup phase was fantastic. I built it up. It was always go, 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 fires, fires, new stuff, new stuff. Then I got staff. We got very good customers that are coming back repeatedly, and it was became very easy, and became stable. Nothing was required to be solved or fires to be put up because customers were coming in, the team was executing as it's supposed to, sending the invoice, we're getting it paid. And all of a sudden I started realizing that everyone became stupid and dumb all of a sudden. And what I realize now is I was actually creating problems for me to solve without realizing because I needed that intense activity in my brain. And what you said last time was I did not figure out how I can satisfy my boredom with the company. And then this is kind of what I've done now with Audrey version 2.0 is I still have the engineering company, but I'm putting this boredom energy into other pursuits like this podcast, tactical breakthroughs, and other potential opportunities that might be fun to do. So um, now I'm using boredom as an early warning system. And then with Dawn's discussion last week, really puts me a couple more checks and balances in places. If I'm bored, I now look at why I'm bored and the reasons and how can I get out of it. But I think the whole term about how to satisfy my boredom it is a key one. And then when I got diagnosed, man, boom, 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 everything fell into place.
Yeah, you were free to be you, right? So the diagnosis isn't a label of something that's wrong. Is to me a diagnosis like this is the freedom to be you. You can now say, look, my brain works in this way. And what it sounded to me like, I'd love to follow up on your story about this, is did you feel when you were talking to this that people were forcing you into the way they traditionally like to see things versus the way your energy was going and how you wanted to do it?
Well, I was trying to follow what everyone else is doing, their success past their metrics. And then if they're doing it that way, I should be doing this way. Yeah. Um,
Yeah.
and then just getting this sense of creating these fires where all of a sudden all the stupid people showed up. Like Dan Sullivan says, it's amazing how when you're tired and cranky, how everyone is all of a sudden stupid or
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
annoying.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But it's yeah, it's just to get that understanding. It's like, why did all these problems? And then I started no longer having an interest in
Yeah.
working in the company anymore because it got bored. I wish I would have known that back then, but I got bored. I
Sure.
lost
Well, you know, it's
I
interesting.
lost
I figured this
legs.
out. I figured this out about myself a long time ago, and I challenge you to see if this is because it sounds like you're describing what I went through. I realized that I'm really a 3 year guy on a project, that I work on a project for about 3 years. I take projects that have gone from incredible enthusiasm in economics, we call it the embryonic growth phase, where it's taking off and then it runs into a wall or runs into a fog or something.
Mhm.
And then you can step in and say, wait a minute, I can shoot some adrenaline in here and organize it and get it going, but keep my vision out there and be able to adjust and adapt. That's the ADHD thing. I can adjust and adapt and hyper jump this project to where it needs to be. But what I've learned is after about 3 years, the exact same thing that what you described starts happening to me. I get bored and I create problems. So what I've realized, and I wonder if this is something you've been enlightened for, I realize that's when I need to sell it. That I need to get out of it. That it's like running a marathon or a relay race. that means it's time to hand it off to somebody else who is going to do better with it than what you could have done.
Yeah.
So it's not only your boredom causing problems, it's your brain saying you have maximized everything you can do here. There's somebody else out there with a unique ability and unique gift that can take it a little bit further. So I've learned I don't know, I hate to say predict, but I've learned to predict that boredom that's coming. How have you done that? What have you done? Because you've taken that experience and turned it into, it was an inflection point that turned into an experience, which turned into a strategy, right? I mean, what are you doing?
Yeah. So the strategy now is, now that I know if I'm feeling bored, then I do an extra layer here. I was checking why and what can I do to get out of it. And then, like, just to go back on your point, Don, like you were saying, when Jane Engineers was going well and it was stable, I didn't enjoy it, but I had a great team, and that's where I should have said, hey guys, you guys are really good at keeping it stable and continuing, and then I might just take a step back and do other things. And I'm a problem solver. When things don't go well, that's where I thrive. And things were going so well that I was no longer interested because it wasn't going so well. And here, and this is a great point. I had a self-managing company, didn't really need me to be there every day. And I was taught, and this is a goal to achieve. I said, oh, great, I achieved the goal, but man, it was not fun. So I achieved the goal that I put on, but no one actually said, well, when this happens, then look at other things. But
that's a great study. I think I've never thought of it the way you explained it. That was beautiful, Andre, because, what do you do when you hit the goal? As a person with ADHD and you hit the goal, that doesn't mean you just write it out, right? It means, I'm going to go kick up my feet and sit on the beach for a month and enjoy it. I mean, that sounds lovely sometimes, but is that really what makes you happy? So I guess that's the question for you. How are you doing that now that you realize that sometimes I reach the goal of having a self-managed company? I reach the goal of consistent cash flow. What do you do? Because they'll drive you crazy. That's the worst case scenario for an ADHD entrepreneur, isn't it?
Yeah. And then the other thing too is what amplifies the ADHD is our high achiever. So a high achiever is one that just has to set goals, achieve more. Once that's set, we move on. And people just say, oh, you're greedy, you just can't sit still. Well, yeah, maybe I can't sit still, but my brain needs to achieve stuff. Done, next. And in this case, self-managed company was a goal. And it was hard for me to set other goals because that was the ultimate goal. And what else do you do? I think I forget your question.
So what do you do? I mean, what do you do when you realize that you've achieved your goal?
Yeah.
Because like you said, most entrepreneurs with ADHD, that is the perfect formula to screw it up, right? So I've gotten everywhere I need to be. Oh my God, how to do it. And there's a guy I worked for years ago, and he taught me a long time. He's probably one of the most gregarious CEOs on Wall Street. And he said, when things are going really well, it's your job to break it and make it better. And he wasn't saying throw the baby out with the bathwater. He wasn't saying, oh my God. Like, for example, when I consult, people tell me this in marketing all the time. They're like, oh, well, our revenue is going down, but it was really going great, but now it's going down. I'm like, well, what did you do 90 days ago? What did you change that is manifesting itself today? And they stumble around with it and they'll go, oh, well, wait a minute. 90 days ago, we changed our marketing campaign. And I'm like, why did you change it? And was it working? And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, that's how we got to where we are, but we just got bored with it. So we decided to change it. I'm like, so you took something that was working beautifully and you messed it up. That's not what we're talking about here. If it's working, do it. What he's talking about is, how do you reflect upon yourself and say, okay, what is the next level I need to go to? And you break yourself of the habit of complacency. And most ADHD people don't have any problem with that. So they're like, okay, do it. But the hard part is making sure you don't go screw up what is working. So if it's working, don't change it. Keep doing it, or have somebody else keep doing it. That's self-managed. You, though, say, where can I take my skills to another level without messing up the cash flow? Or if you mess it all up, you're poor, you're broke, you're bored, and you're driving yourself crazy. That's not a good model.
So what happened was I stopped being selfish. I took myself out of the equation for engineering.
There you go. Perfect.
So if I was bored, I knew I was going to become a problem. So I let the team do what they do best. I set a bunch of conditions and, this is what I do best. This is when you come to me. I'm not to do new projects. And for me, a project that takes more than 2 weeks is too long.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To do new builds for me is like, my God, that's why subconsciously I avoided all these big projects because it took too long. I get bored and I really have to force myself to work. But
Sure.
ultimately what I did is I just took myself out of the equation. And I think as an entrepreneur, especially something you started up and built, it's your baby. It's like, it's part of you. And then now you're telling me to step out of it?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Well, okay, but we have not talked about this question, but what tools do you put in place to make sure that it's not just a random idea that popped in your head and you verbalize it? When you've got a team that's that well oiled and doing great, do you have any tools that you use so that you can say, wait, this is just Andre talking out loud in his genius little quirky way, or is this something that's real?
Well, the thing is, I have to clarify. I can only do that to 2 people in my company. No one else, because it scares the crap out of them, and they think they have to act on it, or they just don't have a
right.
So I do it to 2, and I have to open it up as I'm just brainstorming. I'm just talking. I just need a sounding board. Then they know that it's not going anywhere. Because for the ADHD brain, and a lot for the quick starts is if it just canoodles in your head, nothing happens, nothing makes sense. We actually have to speak it out loud so our ears can hear it and it makes more sense. So that's why talking to someone else is, you don't have to do anything, you just have to be there for you to talk it out and you can kind of hear it. The other thing too is the podcast and tactical breakthroughs. I'm finding other things to do because like you, I need a reason to go and do something, not just do it because I know, I think with the engineering, I no longer had a reason to do anything because it was going so well.
Yeah.
So now I'm finding a new reason. I'm defining my purpose. I'm still doing the same type of work I am with the podcast and tackling I am with my engineering team. I'm helping them leverage their strengths and having to understand it. And then I can see how it's working and not working and help them fix it.
Yeah, that's
if
beautiful.
something doesn't go well, or there's a unique problem that needs my impulsivity to think weird things and observe things that no one can see, that's what I stick to, and everything else is out.
So that's beautiful, Andre. So
don't get me to do calculations because I just won't do it.
Yeah. So what you're saying is instead of breaking something to have something to do that's working well, you put yourself in a position with a couple of people to vet some new ideas and get feedback, and then you go take off on a new project and let them continue to manage the effective project that's working, right? See, that is beautiful. Like I said, most entrepreneurs don't have the courage to do that.
Yeah, because I discovered with time, and that's where I should stay, is I'm really great at starting, and I don't care, I don't care about finishing and doing.
Yeah, that's a classic ADHD thing. I have a business coach that I still work with. I meet with him probably once a week, and he's told me since day one, he goes, "You're a terrible finisher."
Yeah.
He goes, "You don't finish projects." And I said, "I know. I think my gift is to take a project that's frustrated, either brand new or somebody else started and got frustrated and fell back, and then hyper jump it and get it going. But it's up to somebody else to do it." And I think, and this is something really good for your entrepreneurial listeners out there, we're all just actors in a play. We're stewards, okay? And as a steward, you're given a project, you're given an opportunity that you choose to accept or not accept, to do or not do, based on your unique ability and skill set. But you've got to realize that it's short term, especially with ADHD. That's the gift. And if you can take this thing for 2 or 3 years, like I do, and say, I can really maximize this, and there's somebody out there that's better than me, or their gift is to actually do the advanced implementation and all, they might be the ones who finish it. I don't have to finish it. And when you do that, you find this enormous amounts of peace that comes upon you because you know your role in the play. Just like if you were an actor on Broadway and the director said, "Okay, Andre, here's your part. You come in scene 2, 2 minutes into it, and you've got a 5-minute speech. Other than that, you're not in this play." And if you're a good actor, you're going to say, "Man, that sounds great. How do I maximize that 5 minutes?" Well, that's how we got to look at it as entrepreneurs, especially with ADHD. How do you maximize your time that you're there, knowing that you're just an actor in a play and you're not a good finisher? So somebody else will finish it. Somebody else will do the closing line. Somebody else will sing the final song.
But that also means you're removing your ego by doing that.
Oh my God, yes. You take ADHD and ego and slam them together, and you have death.
Yeah,
I mean, nothing works.
Yeah, I've lived
Most
it.
great. Oh, everybody's done it. But I love the C.S. Lewis line where he says, "Hell's gates are locked from the inside." In other words, all you got to do is unlock it and walk out of hell when you're in it. And most people get into hell because they did something in the past that's manifesting itself today. And ADHD people are trying to either, number one, they're trying to either follow the mainstream attitude of everybody else, or number two, they don't recognize that their gift is to constantly be moving forward. So they'll do like what you were brilliant not to do, is you take something that's working and screw it up. Whereas you need to say, no, this is working. I'm going to put it on a shelf, hand it to somebody who loves doing that. And then I'm going to go on to the next thing, moving it forward. If you can do those things, you've got the keys to stay out of hell. If you don't, then you're going to be in hell wandering around, wondering where you lost the keys.
Yeah. And then being in hell also means like society, it's ingrained in the fabric of society, especially North American society, is for you to be successful or to be seen as successful, you have to do it all.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then in
yeah,
a way
absolutely.
we feel ashamed. So I only like to do this part and I'm really bad at the other. I think this is where a lot of our brains struggle, is that finishing stuff. I'm supposed to do it. I should finish it because I started it. But if we all know our roles, then you've got a great team, then it's fluid. What I hate to do, I got a guy here, he just loves doing Excel and numbers. He can do that for days, and
Let
he
him
does
do
it
it.
100 times quicker than I ever could.
Yeah.
But let's just understand too, for the listener, this is our brain. This is how it works.
Yeah.
Why is it interesting to start? Because it's interesting, it's challenged, it's novel, and most times it's urgent. But the longer it goes and it gets to a point where, hey, I brought it over the startup hump, I'm no longer interested.
Yeah.
I'm losing motivation now. It's no longer new and novel. It's not as challenging anymore. And there's no urgency to do anything. So that's how it's just our brain, the way it works. So if you understand how that works, stay in your field, stay in your toolbox, or in French, we would say in our sandbox.
Yeah.
And then, if you're good at digging, finding the hole and what's there, then you bring someone else to bring it home or whatnot. But there's nothing wrong with it. It's just the way the brain works. Now, there's some people that can keep interest a long time on a certain topic with an ADHD brain, but just figure out what you're good at, what you're best at, and what you can destroy, and stay out of that destruction zone.
Yeah. See, I applaud you for that. This is one thing I've always admired about you and your history and your work. Not only are you doing this in favor of ADHD, but you're also teaching fundamental leadership skills out there. So if you're saying, hey, look, I even got ADHD, I need to stay in my sandbox, I need to do what I do best. What you also do is you apply that same principle to people who aren't ADHD by saying, look, this person likes Excel. I'm going to get out of their way and let them do it until they're just giggly drunk with doing numbers. This person likes, digging ditches or building widgets. Let them do it. It might drive you insane, but it makes them happy. So in a way, to be a successful ADHD entrepreneur, you've got to realize that you need to treat people the way they want to be treated, which is how you want to be treated, but you can't expect them to understand you. So it creates a little bit of a loneliness. And going back to the boredom thing, I don't ever want to get anybody confused on loneliness and boredom. If you've got ADHD, you're an entrepreneur and you're really doing some good work, you're going to be really lonely because not a lot of people are going to understand you. And more importantly, they can't keep up with you. But if you can sit there and say, wait, I'm not going to let my business get sabotaged because I'm bored. I'm going to continue to put my effort somewhere else. And this person over here, I can hand the reins over to them. They can be the good servant on this. They can take this thing and run with it while I go find the next project to steward and use my gifts. Then everybody's doing what they're meant to do. You just have to understand in leadership that even though you're doing it for them, they might not do it back to you. And that's okay. That's the trade-off. Because you have reality. Oh, it's a reality, but the trade-off is you have freedom of time, relationship, money, and purpose, and they don't. And that's okay. Everybody has their lot in life. But you take your gifts and do it, treat people the way they want to be treated, appreciate them for being who they are, and you create a system where you can be who you are. It's okay, but you're just going to get lonely because nobody's going to fully comprehend you. So this sort of tribal culture that you're creating is wonderful because people with ADHD can listen. And like I said, since being on the show, I get so many emails and LinkedIn notices saying, hey, can we be friends? And we talk about that. And I'm like, yeah, I get it. You're lonely too.
And that's
but it's okay. It's part of it.
And it's true. Like even non-ADHD entrepreneurs, all entrepreneurs and leaders are lonely. It is lonely at the top. Now, and
Yep.
then, like you said, let's throw in the ADHD side, which we're already kind of lonelier because we're not like everyone else. So we are
Yep.
lonely. And that's why, like, the group that we're in with Strategic Coach is good because we got a bunch of lonely people who meet up regularly who have the
Yep.
same challenges. And it's a great community. We just need those types of community, which also helps with boredom. And I really like
Yeah.
the difference here that you said there's a difference between loneliness and boredom.
Yep.
They're not the same thing. And I got to canoodle that myself because it is true. And I think a lot
Yeah.
of us can mistake loneliness as boredom.
Absolutely. And you know what I love too, on that same note, one thing I found about ADHD people who are lonely entrepreneurs who are looking for tribal, it's almost a no judgment zone. I've never seen an ADHD person judge somebody else to the level. I mean, you might make a decision, hey, this isn't right for me. And I guess that's a judgment. But overall, they're not going to sit there and critique somebody because they're different. An ADHD person is going to be the most inclusive, the most appreciative of diversity, the most appreciative of equity, all these buzzwords that are out there. I think the ADHD entrepreneur or the person who's learned to maximize it has been there a long, long time. So I guess that goes back to too that an ADHD leader will advance the ball, but they will make the world better for those people who are working with them or for them because it's a no judgment zone that ADHD people get it because I guess because we're used to be judged, right? So we just say, look, I'm not going to do that to somebody else. I wouldn't want somebody to treat me that way, so I'm not going to do it.
Well, the
So
flip
it's a
side
big
is,
deal.
and we just understand it. You
Yeah,
don't have to explain it. We just get it. Like me and
yeah,
we talk all the time. We actually laugh a lot. It's not we're laughing at what happened or what you. It's just we're laughing because I understand you don't have to explain it.
yeah, yeah. I've seen this movie before. So
So thanks again, Don, for two more great conversations here about the board entrepreneur, early warning. I use it as an early warning system to see what might or things that need to change and how do I need to change or change my role. And that's the big thing I really did because when I got bored, I lost clients, I lost a company, I lost relationships. And then yourself, your boredom was, what's the next thing? What's the next energy? Where can I put this energy that's ready to go?
yeah,
But checking the impulsivity and doing the right thing. Achieving a goal is perfect. Yeah, as a high achieving ADHD entrepreneur, achieving that goal is perfect to screwing it up. And if we can just realize once we achieve that goal, what is next? We have to cognitively say, hey, all right, we achieved it. What next? Because I need to go and do something. And I like how you put it. You need a reason to go and do. And our
yep,
brains need that. And if you're a high achiever on top of that, that's amplified. And the key point about loneliness and boredom are not the same thing. I like for you, the listener, to think about that. And for me, I don't know what you're thinking about this. You can have your version of this final thought. But to me, like boredom can be an early warning system that something has to change. Because if not, it can cause problems that you're not aware of. And if you're not aware you're bored, it can cause problems. And like you said, do what you feel is right to do. Not you get opinions and thoughts from other people, but in the end, if it feels right for you, go that way because
yeah,
you know you.
yeah. Be free to be you.
Be free to be you. Any last thoughts, buddy?
No, just again, I continue to appreciate what you're doing because within that loneliness, we tend to find ourselves looking in the mirror a lot and thinking that there's no one else out there who understands me. And, that can lead you into an abyss. That can lead you into some dark places. And, to be anything in business, much less an ADHD leadership or an entrepreneur person, you have to be a successful manic depressant because 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down, 1 minute you're up, 1 minute you're down. One time you're rocking it, and then somebody comes in who doesn't understand you and throws a wrench in your gears, and you're like, oh, why did that happen? And then you start thinking about it. So people need a place to go, Andre, and I really appreciate that you've got this forum, that people are out there, and that you continue to stress what we've been saying. Be free to be you. Don't let anybody else do it. And when you find that sort of balance and harmony, then that's when you sit there and go, okay, I'm really happy. And at the end of the day, that's what I've learned the older I get. I just want somebody to be happy. You don't have to be super, monetarily successful. You can have a deli that you own and you've got two high school kids working in the afternoons and it's just the three of you and that's it. Are you happy? Good.
That's all.
Go be happy. That's all that matters. And so at the end of the day is if you're happy because you're free to be you and you take these gifts that you've been given and you find a tribe like this that you can feel welcome and not judged, I think it's a beautiful thing. So I continue to applaud you, Andre. I mean, thank you, buddy, for what you're doing.
Thank you. And like you said, I think I want to do this on an ending note. Balance and harmony. If you find balance and harmony, I think your ADHD will be easily manageable.
Yeah.
Because once you find that balance and harmony, there's nothing to get in the way.
Yeah. Yeah. And I tell you the three things that make up harmony, and I learned this a long time ago, is personal, professional, and spiritual. So you've got to say, is what I'm doing right for me personally? Is what I'm doing right for me professionally? And is what I'm doing right for me spiritually? And spiritually doesn't have to be religious. It can just be your gut, your conscience. You know, do I feel good? I know that nothing but good is going to come to that. So if you can do something and you're in harmony of all three things, they're all affirmative, you're making wise decisions, not good decisions, but wise decisions. And I think the ADHD entrepreneur or anybody with ADHD is, I hate to say, but we're way ahead of that. We just have to not get caught up in the current of society and again, be free. So thank you, buddy, for what you're doing. This is great.
Thank you, Don. And just to point out also to the listeners that Don is a big supporter of Culture City, which is a charity that supports and promotes autism, sensory inclusion, youth leadership, and mental health. And as the listeners, you're starting to hear from me, mental health is very, very important. So I got a link in the show notes for you to make a donation, be greatly appreciated. And like Don said, he's approachable on LinkedIn. Please do so if you think he's actually making sense, which I do. And Don, thanks again.
Or if you don't think it's making sense, email me anyway. That'd be great.
Thanks again, buddy, because I was not bored on these two topics.
Me either. Thank you.
All right. Take care.